movie discussion podcast hosted by Heather and
Kenny?
Yes, that's right. And
why did you switch that? What are you doing?
I don't know. I thought it'd be kind of fun.
I thought you made a mistake. I was like, what is this?
No.
Oh, okay.
I thought it'd be fun to kind of flip it around a little bit.
It's real cute. Anyway, continue.
So today we're going to be looking at the movie Nosferatu from 1922. So a few basic facts about the movie. It was released in 1922, directed by F.W. Murnau, who is one of my favorite silent movie directors. He also did the 1928 masterpiece Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans, which won the first Oscar ever. And the first Oscars, the first Academy Awards, they had separate awards, kind of like what they planned to do this year, and then they scrapped it after everyone hated it. Where this year, instead of they having Best Picture, they were going to have like Best Popular Film and then Best Picture as separate categories. But everyone in the world hated that idea, so they didn't do it. But in the original Academy Awards from 1929, they did have something like that. They had Best Production and then Most Artistic Production. And Sunrise won Most Artistic Production. So a little fun fact from cinema history there. It stars Max Schreck and Greta Schroeder. Did I say that? You think I said that right?
Perfect.
Heather speaks German for our listeners at home. So if you saw this name, but with an umlaut over the O, how would you say that?
Schroeder.
Schroeder.
Okay.
So Greta Schroeder, and it has an original score composed by Hans Erdmann. Although much of this score has unfortunately been lost, so the version that we watched, which is the Kino restoration, fills some of the sections with classical music instead of the original score, which we don't have.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that this silent film has a score. But it's true that a lot of silent films had scores written by composers. Mm-hmm. They just weren't recorded onto the film the way that later, movies, the actual film would have an audio track on it that would allow the synchronized score to be played along with the film. Instead, you would distribute the written score along with the film, and then movie theaters would have like an organist or musicians that worked there and who would play the score along with the film.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And there are a few theaters even today that will play silent movies and still have like an organist play along with it. So
I would love to see that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And the movie was written by Henrik Galeen, who also co-wrote Paul Wegener's 1920 horror film The Golem, How He Came into the World, which we talked about a little bit when we talked about Frankenstein as an influence on that film. And this was an unlicensed adaptation of the Bram Stoker novel Dracula from 1897, but the copyright had not run out on the novel, so Galeen tried to avoid getting into legal trouble by changing the characters' names. But it did not work. Stoker's widow sued for copyright infringement and won, resulting in a court order for all copies of the film to be destroyed. Luckily for us, they didn't get all of them, so the film does survive. Unlike a lot of silent movies, it's kind of a miracle because, most silent films weren't intentionally trying to be destroyed, and yet most of them do not survive. Most silent films have been lost. But we do have this one, so that's cool. So a little plot summary before we get started. So I'm gonna spoil the film. So if there are anybody who missed it in the theater,
knows the story whether they know it or not.
Yeah. So it's one of those. So the young professional Thomas Hutter and his nervous wife Ellen live a peaceful life in Visborg. Hutter's boss Nock sends Hutter to Transylvania to draw up papers for Count Orlok's purchase of a house in Visborg. On his way to Orlok's castle, Hutter finds an old book that warns against the vampire Nosferatu, a creature that drinks human blood and must sleep during the day in a coffin filled with plague soil. He laughs at the foolish superstition of the book and of the fearful villagers who warn him against going up to the castle. Orlok turns out to be a creepy weirdo who takes an interest in a picture of Ellen, saying she has a real nice neck, and bites Hutter's neck while he's sleeping, though he initially misdiagnoses these bite marks as mosquito bites. After seeing Orlok crawl into a coffin, being carted off towards Visborg, Hutter makes his escape from the castle. As he recuperates in a hospital, Ellen and the other denizens of Visborg are threatened by a plague epidemic that's really the work of Orlok's blood-sucking activities. So, to get started, what did you think of the movie, Heather? Have you seen this one before?
Yeah, but I did the math this morning, and I haven't seen it in 9 years. So things are a lot different. It's not that I forgot it completely, but pretty much. I remember liking it a lot more, but I don't think I'd seen very many horror movies at that time. But I do still like it. It's just in a different way,
Interesting. What do you think is different about your appreciation of it now?
I don't want to say it's boring, because the imagery is so good. Like, it's mesmerizing,
Yeah,
but
it is
plot-wise is a little hard. But it's worth it. It's like so worth it just to like look at it. It's hypnotizing. I love the cinematography in this. And there's a lot of camera movement too. That's really interesting. Certain scenes I think are, sometimes I'm sitting there going like, wow, how did they do this shot back then? I mean, this was all filmed with a single camera because that's what they had. Fancy.
And there's these really cool shots. Like I really like the way they filmed the boat scenes. So after Orlok leaves his castle, he travels. He's in a coffin that's below deck on a ship that travels across the ocean, like in the novel. And as it's going, he's like sneaking out of his coffin and killing the sailors one by one. And there's just some really cool shots of the ship. There's one where the camera seems to be floating over the ocean and approaches the ship rather quickly, and sort of goes alongside it. So I think that probably Murnau or his cameraman must have been on another boat that was approaching the boat and just undercranking the camera so that the shot would look like it's moving quicker than it actually is. Because obviously they didn't have, a plane or something to be on,
right,
in those days. So
that must have been pretty progressive for the early 20s, right?
Yeah. So I think, we're starting to see movies get beyond the sort of stage-bound early days of cinema, where it was like set the camera up in one place and then have the actors play out some kind of drama in front of it. And directors like Murnau, who are on the cutting edge, are starting to experiment with different kinds of angles and camera movements and all kinds of fun stuff. And Murnau just got more and more sophisticated. So if you watch Sunrise, it's really interesting, all the camera movements that he's got in there. And he's got like all these composite shots where you've got like different things in the being added into the negative. So you've got like, two different scenes that you're seeing simultaneously and stuff. There's really neat stuff going on. And unfortunately, the addition of sound at the end of the 20s and into the 30s kind of put the kibosh on a lot of that experimentation, because once you have sound, that's this whole extra piece of equipment that you have to have recording the sound at the same time, and they were very bulky and unwieldy at first, so it was a lot easier to just keep the camera locked down. So that's one of the reasons I think I kind of prefer Nosferatu to the 1931 Dracula.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay.
Which I'm realizing that I bring up the 1931 Dracula, I think, pretty much every episode.
Do you really?
So,
well, I really love that movie, so.
Yeah, I can't stop talking about it, so maybe we should just do an episode on it.
I would love to.
Okay.
So, bye.
Well, we'll do this one first. It's a neat companion piece, right?
Yes.
Because they're both adaptations of the novel. And that was something I wanted to talk about, was the changes from the novel. So Heather and I have both read the book.
Well, yeah, but for me it was like 20 years ago, so. Good luck.
It's been a while for me too, but I have a really good memory. And I don't know. I've just been more in touch with the novel through, I don't know, reading about it and stuff. So I'm pretty aware of like the changes that were made. So I mean, the most obvious thing if you watch the movie is that all the characters' names are different.
Right.
So I've got a list of correspondences here that might be helpful to some of our listeners. So Hutter in this movie is Jonathan Harker. Ellen is Mina. Orlok is Dracula. And Knock is a combination of two characters. Harker's boss, Peter Hawkins, and the more prominent character is the madman Renfield. And then Bulwer is Van Helsing. So it's kind of interesting to me that this and the 1931 Dracula both combined two characters for the Renfield character. Neither of them could just have Renfield on his own. They sort of needed him to have more to do, I guess, in the early part of the film. So in the 31 Dracula, they combined Jonathan Harker with Renfield. Here, they combined Harker's boss with Renfield. And a lot of characters that were major characters in the book are not in the movie. So the Van Helsing character Bulwer doesn't really contribute much to the plot, whereas he's Dracula's main antagonist in the book and in most of the film versions, including the 1931 film. And Lucy, Mina's friend, who has the different suitors that play such a big role in the book, is basically absent from the movie. So, what did you think about the changes from the book, Heather?
Well, I mean, I feel like since it's a silent film, it's not like characters can be like super fleshed out, or do you know what I mean? It's like,
they kind of have to simplify it, right? Because the one thing you don't want in a silent film is like a ton of dialogue, because it can only be presented via the intertitles. So it slows the story down a lot, and it's just not that fun to watch a really dialogue-heavy silent movie. So they do their best to convey as much as they can through visuals, through the actions of the characters. And I think they do a good job of that here. Like, I really like the scene early on when Hutter gets the news that he's going to be traveling to Transylvania, and he goes home and tells his wife. And he's like a little kid, like, he's a super naive character in this movie, and he's just like, huzzah, I'm going off to the land of thieves and phantoms. And he's sort of like practically dancing around the room and like he's running through the different rooms of the house to like pack his stuff. He's like grabbing his suitcase and his stuff. And meanwhile, Ellen is just totally static. So in the frame, you've got Jonathan rushing around in the background. In the foreground, you've got Ellen just like standing there, totally disconsolate. And so you could tell everything about this dramatic situation just from the motion of the characters, like the physical acting going on is really helpful.
Yeah, they do everything really dramatically, but they have to. And it's interesting how well they were able to like balance that, where it's not just insane looking, but it conveys the idea of what's going on,
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah. So they had to kind of simplify the plot. So I think it makes sense to cut out a lot of characters and a lot of the stuff.
Otherwise, it'd be like a 10-hour movie.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think part of the pacing is also due to the fact that it's a silent film. Yeah. So you have to go slow when you have to, explain every detail through visuals or through a title card that stays on screen for an uncomfortably long period of time.
Yeah.
One thing that is a big change is the ending of the film. So in the novel, they chase Dracula all the way back to Transylvania, and they kill him there I think they stick him in the heart with a silver knife. Whereas in the film, it's the Mina character, Ellen, who destroys Count Orlok. She finds Hutter's book that says that the only way to defeat the vampire is to for a pure woman to sacrifice herself to him, and he'll get so distracted, I guess, by her beauty that he forgets to go home to his coffin, and he's caught by the daylight and destroyed. So that's what happens. She ends up dying in the end, but it's to save the whole city from Count Orlok. And a fun fact about that is that this is kind of the origin of the idea that the vampire can be killed by sunlight, because in the novel, Dracula is just kind of annoyed by sunlight. Like it's more in the category of things that vampires will avoid if at all possible, but that they're not like insta kills like garlic or crosses. I think there's even a scene in the novel where he's out and about in the daylight, but he just has like a parasol or something to keep the sun off of him. But I say it's sort of the introduction of that, because I do know that in like the vampire mythology that Bram Stoker was drawing on for Dracula, there is the idea that you can distract the vampire until daylight comes and defeat him that way. Funnily enough, what you have to do is put a bunch of beans on a table.
Oh yeah, I love this.
And
I love this shit.
And so when the vampire comes to your house, he'll see the beans on the table. And I guess vampires have OCD. They have this compulsive need to count things. And so they'll start counting the beans. And then if there's enough beans, then they won't be able to finish counting by the time the sun comes up. So I always wonder, like, did Sesame Street know about that when they created the count? Yeah, because like that's his thing.
Yeah, totally. This is the story that I often tell people.
Yeah. But anyway, what do you think about the change to the ending?
I thought that I just really, when he dies in this movie, it's like the best part.
Yeah.
I just loved that death.
Yeah, where he's kind of
really
he's
cool.
got his arms out. You said it was like a Thriller pose,
yeah,
like the Michael Jackson music video Thriller.
And so he kind of just like fades away, and then there's like the smoke, and I loved it. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it's great. It's not really like over the top. I mean, his acting is extremely theatrical, but all that we get as far as like the character's death is just a sort of, the character sort of vanishes. There's like a wipe effect where he disappears, and then we get the little smoke on the bottom of the screen.
Would that be like really cool effects for the early 20s? Or...
Yeah, I don't know how like innovative the special effects were in this movie compared to other movies that were coming out around the same time. I have seen some other like early 1920s horror movies that have special effects in them, like the Swedish film The Phantom Carriage has, as you might imagine, a phantom carriage in it that is translucent, and the driver is translucent. So there are a lot of effects like that where ghostly characters appear translucent. So that wasn't a new idea of sort of layering images on top of each other so that they look see-through.
Is that how they do that?
I think so, yeah. And so yeah, I don't really know. I can't say how innovative any of the effects were and whether they would have been amazing at the time. But I will say that I really like a lot of the special effects in this.
I did.
I like them, again, better than the 1931 Dracula. I like, of course, everybody loves the scene where in the hold of the boat, the sailor starts investigating the coffins, and the lid blows off, and then Orlok stands up out of the coffin, but he's sort of like completely rigid and just rises up magically. It's
a very iconic image.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why you should definitely see this movie, because you need to see like in context where these images come from, because you'll see that referenced like a lot of places, you know.
That one, and then him going up the stairs where you just see his shadow. I
love that. That's my favorite part. That's so cool looking.
Yeah, I also really like the special effects to do with the Hutter's carriage ride, where, as in the book and like every version of Dracula, the cab driver that's taking him to Orlok's castle won't go past a certain point. And so he's standing around waiting, wondering what to do, and then Dracula's coachman shows up and takes him to the castle. But of course the coachman is really Dracula himself, or in this case Orlok, because he doesn't have any servants, because he's a vampire and he eats them all, I guess.
You know.
Nobody will come near his castle, so that's a sort of interesting tragic dimension, or at least like pathetic dimension to the vampire, right? That he has to pretend that he has servants, and so do tricks like this, disguise himself as the cabman and so forth, to hide the fact that really he's like a complete loner. And yeah, so the carriage that takes Hutter all the way up to Orlok's castle is shown in fast motion, so another undercrank shot. So it kind of like crazily comes up to him, and you could have like the that sort of music playing.
The Benny Hill
theme, like, yeah, it's like that kind of fast motion. So like in a Charlie Chaplin movie or something, this would be a funny moment, but I think it actually works pretty well as an effective creepy moment, that this carriage sort of has a different time to it than the other things in the scene.
Totally.
And then we also get a shot where they use the negative of the image, so everything that would be black is white and vice versa, and we see the carriage that way. And I thought that was a pretty cool visual effect as well.
Yeah, it's definitely creative. I like it.
Was there anything in the film that you still found scary after all these years?
Well, I think it's really impressive, the makeup and the prosthetics work, because that dude is creepy as hell.
Yeah.
And like, imagine how traumatizing that must have been in 1922.
Oh yeah.
My god. That guy is freaky looking.
Yeah, and that's another change from the book. Because in the book, it's much more like other film versions where Count Dracula is kind of a suave guy. He's decent looking, at least, and charismatic. Whereas here, he's this like horrible, creepy monster. And he's just barely able to kind of disguise himself as a human being when he's interacting with Hutter.
Right.
Which, yeah, that makeup is super iconic.
It's great. It's awesome.
Yeah. There are certain moments that I think still kind of creep me out. I really like when, near the end of the film, when Orlok is feasting on the hellish elixir of Ellen's blood. We get a shot of him where all we can see of him is his long fingers sort of peeking out over the edge of the bed, and his head as he's chowing down on her neck. But the cool thing about it is that he's not centered in the frame. He's kind of like down in the lower left portion of the frame. And so, I don't know, there's something really unsettling about that image that kind of still gets me. I guess we should talk about German Expressionism. Do you know anything about that?
I don't know. I'm a few bars.
So German Expressionism is an artistic movement in early German cinema that has been hugely influential on later cinema. Not just horror, really it has been influential on horror movies. So like the Universal horror movies really pick up a lot of the aesthetic. But even outside of horror movies, like film noir was really influenced by it. And then a lot of later films, and modern viewers will be familiar with the work of Tim Burton. So if you want to see a modern filmmaker who's like completely devoted to trying to recreate the aesthetic of German Expressionism, just look at like Edward Scissorhands or The Nightmare Before Christmas. It's all about light and shadow, extreme contrast between light and dark, a lot of like unrealistic architecture. You've got...
Is that why you were obsessed with the architecture in this movie?
Yeah, we were...
Why you kept asking questions like every 30 seconds?
Yeah, we were talking while we were watching the movie about the interesting architectural forms that we see in the film. We see a lot of arches that kind of come up to a point, which I found out is an aspect of Gothic architecture, so it's very appropriate in a Gothic horror movie. But yeah, they're just like there's a lot of like weird unnatural angles that are used in German expressionist mise en scène, and I think a more like the classic example of it would be the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which came out 2 years earlier. Have you seen that one?
No.
Okay, well we gotta watch that one for this podcast sometime.
What calamari? What?
The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
Mm.
So yeah, it almost the only way I can really describe it without just showing you it is it's like a morbid Dr. Seuss.
I'm interested.
So yeah, it was a reaction against the attempt to be as realistic as possible in film. And I've read that maybe part of the reason was that, German cinema just couldn't compete with Hollywood in terms of budget. So in terms of having big, spectacular, realistic sets, they couldn't do that. But what they could do was be creative and, do interesting things with the sets that Hollywood producers who are always going for realism would never do. So it's expressionistic in the sense that it's not trying to represent the way something actually looks. It's trying to get at the feeling that it evokes. In the case of Caligari, it's trying to create a sort of nightmare world, a world of the dream that the character is having. So I think Nosferatu is a much more subdued example of German expressionism, particularly because there's so much on-location filming. So there aren't a lot of constructed sets. But when the film is on a set, you can tell sometimes that it's not totally aiming for realism. Like when we're in Ellen's bedroom, you look out the window and you see like a row of houses on the other side of the street in the background. And they look like a row of cardboard houses. Like they don't look very realistic, but they're very sort of pointy and interesting looking. I really like the location shooting in this movie, the locations that they picked and the way that they shoot them. I think it's really cool. And it's another point where I prefer this one to the 1931 Dracula, where everything is on a set, and sometimes they don't look the best. The boat sequence here, I think, is definitely better than when we see the boat on the ocean in the 1931 Dracula. It's like a little model boat in a tub somewhere. It looks pretty bad. Here, like, they actually got like this, old sailboat that looks realistic, and I don't know where they got that thing, but they're actually on the ocean shooting it. So that's pretty neat. Yeah, so...
Max Schreck is the name of Christopher Walken's character in Batman Returns.
Yep, that's a reference.
Do you know anything about that?
Well, that is a reference. I mean, we've just been talking about how Tim Burton was so influenced by German expressionism, so that's a deliberate homage
on
his part.
God,
also,
I love that movie.
I've considered whether Shrek the Ogre could be an homage, because, I mean, obviously those guys must have also known about this, but I think it's just a coincidence because
we'll go with that.
Shrek in German I think means like shriek, like a scream. So I think that's where that's why Shrek is called that, because he's a frightful creature.
Yep.
So yeah, as far as I know, there is no Shrek connection. No green ogre connection.
Anyway, this is a podcast about Shrek the Ogre.
Yes, from now on. We've jumped the shark.
Okay.
One weird thing about these early Dracula adaptations that I've noticed that's kind of like this bizarre pattern is like creepy animals, and I'm doing air quotes. Mm-hmm. Like there are animals in these movies that seem like they're supposed to be creepy,
like
but they're just
hyena?
Random animals. Yeah.
The random hyena. Okay.
Yeah, so in this movie, when Hutter is staying at the village on his way to Orlok's castle, we hear the villagers... Well, we don't hear it. We see in the intertitles that the villagers are worried about a werewolf, and then we cut to a hyena running around. And And it's like, is this the werewolf?
Yeah,
this is a hyena, clearly.
I
Which I don't know that they live in
I'm gonna go with no. I'm thinking no.
Yeah, so it is strange to see a hyena in Europe, but why it's scary, I'm not sure. Like,
is it supposed to be so weird that you're scared?
I think maybe
are you
just
not supposed to know what a hyena is?
I think maybe our list of like animals that are officially creepy might just have changed. You know, like it's not a human universal that certain animals are creepy. Just like, you know, back in these days, the early 20th century, pink used to be the color for boys' clothes and blue is the color for girls' clothes. So it's like one of those things where it changes and you kind of feel like, oh, well, it must have always been this way, but it wasn't.
Like Republicans and Democrats?
Yeah, well, yeah. And because also in the 31 Dracula, there's some weird animals in that one too. When we get shots of Dracula's castle where we see an armadillo and I think a potato bug.
I thought you were just gonna say potato.
No, you don't see a potato.
Maybe they're so exotic that it's supposed to be creepy. It's like so, ooh, this is a really exotic, strange
I guess, but I don't think they would do that now. Like, if they did an adaptation of Dracula now, we wouldn't cut to, like, his backyard and there's emus back there or something.
That would be pretty off-putting. Have you ever seen an emu? Jesus Christ.
Well, those are terrifying.
They're terrifying.
But just the fact that it's a unusual animal would not really
Right, it
work.
would just be like, it would be very distracting. And the hyena was distracting.
Yeah. But it kind of makes you realize, like, why is it not weird to see, like, bats and rats associated with scary things? Like, what did they ever do? They're cute. I like bats and rats.
You like wild rats? Like, if you saw a rat in the corner right now, you'd be like, oh.
Yeah.
Actually, you might. I take it back.
Yeah. I don't like spiders, though. I am scared
spiders.
of those.
No. That shot of the spider, to me, lasted 45 minutes. I kept thinking, like, okay, like, we've seen enough. Okay. It was, like, the scariest part of the whole movie. It was just the spider spinning its web or whatever.
Yeah, we get an insert shot of a spider when Knock is talking about how the blood is the life and he wants to eat spiders to get their blood.
Of all the things to drink blood from.
Well, there's some sound reasoning behind it
because they're bloodsuckers themselves.
Right, so you get their blood plus all the blood of the things that they've sucked blood from.
I'd just die. If I was a vampire and I like wanted to be humane or some shit, I would just die. I'd be like, no,
I think there's a vampire that does that in Anne Rice.
Yes.
He decides to just starve himself, but he doesn't work.
Yeah. Right, he eats rats and shit. That's what I'm referencing.
Oh, I thought you were just...
making crazy shit up?
Yeah, just imagining what you would do.
Nope. I'd eat people before I'd eat animals. I wouldn't be, like, humane like that. Like, anyway, this is a tangent.
So, we've been talking about what we would do if we were vampires.
It could be a whole episode, I swear.
Yeah. And it kind of makes me think, like, what do we make of the vampire as a monster? Like, how do we read the vampire?
What do you mean?
Well, like, different kinds of monsters seem to prey on different cultural anxieties.
You want to know what it's like a metaphor for?
Yeah, I mean, do you think that the vampire is some kind of a metaphor or... associated with something?
I feel like you're about to tell me. Are you about to tell me?
No, I don't have a...
You don't have an
I don't have an argument, really. I have a couple different ideas.
Okay, enlighten me.
Well, I mean, the one thing about Dracula in particular is he's a foreigner, right? Like, he comes from this weird country that's far away.
So this is going to be really sad. Okay.
So he's like an immigrant. So there's a fear of, I think, immigration and foreign people
If
who
you
are
let
different.
immigrants into your country, they will suck your blood.
Yeah. He comes in and he's like a parasite. And isn't this what we still say about immigrants?
Well, it is. Yep.
Like they're leeching off of our welfare.
They're taking our jobs.
Yeah, they're taking our jobs, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, not all vampires are foreigners, but Dracula and Orlok are foreigners. They come in from outside and try to set up shop in, the peaceful world of here. It's Visborg. In the original novel, it's London, which London is a lot less peaceful, I think. Whereas Visborg is like Hutter and Ellen's relationship seems like so idealized here, and they're almost like childlike, the characters. They're very innocent, and then this like horrible monster comes, and so yeah, I feel like it might have to do with that. Also, some people have read, I think a lot of scholars read Orlok as a figure of anti-Semitism as well. He sort of embodies a lot of the stereotypes that Germans had about Jews in those days, and not just Germans, but anti-Semites in general. He's got the long hook nose. He's got these long fingers that indicate greed and grasping.
That's atrocious.
Yeah. So I think the film definitely would have played on those anxieties that people had, that there was this Jewish conspiracy and these wealthy Jews were controlling the global economy and they were destroying Germany, and all the stuff that Hitler also then played on, and we know what happened next.
What? I'm just kidding.
But I don't think that necessarily makes this an anti-Semitic film. I guess it's sort of like a weird thing, right? Like when you have characters in a film that resemble stereotypes of a particular race or group, but they aren't members of that group in the work itself. Like Count Orlok is never said to be a Jew in the film. He just has some of those stereotypes. Or like I'm thinking of like Star Wars, like Watto is another figure that's been associated with anti-Semitism, but in the film he doesn't wear a yarmulke or anything. We don't see him go to Seder or dinner or anything like that. And so yeah, like at what point is it problematic to have that kind of thing?
Right. But I mean, it's not a super far-fetched theory.
Yeah. But one thing I think is kind of interesting is at the same time that the film, I think, is playing on the anxieties that Germans had towards outsiders and towards Jews, it's also critical of the mob mentality, the sort of madness of crowds, and the tendency of people to scapegoat people who are different.
So like the Frankenstein thing again.
Yeah, because when Knock escapes from the lunatic asylum, we get intertitles that are sort of judging the crowd of people for going after him. It says that the people, because of the plague, they were ready for a sacrifice, or it says something like that, right? They needed a sacrifice and they chose Knock. So the idea is that the people are just looking for a scapegoat, somebody to blame for this calamity that's happened to them, and they pick this crazy guy because he's a crazy weirdo, and not because he's actually the cause of the problem. And they all chase after him with their pitchforks. And the scene almost becomes comic. Where
that scene was so funny.
Yeah, it's great.
Just that one part where they're throwing the scarecrow around.
Right, so we see
hilarious.
It's kind of set up like a comedy shot too, where it's such a long shot. It's so far away from the scarecrow that it's hard for us to even totally tell that it's a scarecrow at first.
I wouldn't have known unless you told me, because I am especially impaired because I didn't have my glasses. So
yeah, especially if you didn't have glasses back then.
Yeah.
And and we see the mob sort of a bunch of people run over to the scarecrow, and as they
and they think it's him.
Yeah, they assume that it's Knock at first, but then as they get close, they realize it's a scarecrow, and some of them pick it up and start throwing it around.
They rip it apart and like fling it around.
Right, in their sort of angry frustration that
crazy.
This wasn't what they were looking for.
Oh my god.
So yeah, I think that just that one shot almost by itself is an argument against the sort of mob mentality that ultimately led to the rise of the Nazis.
Yeah.
The sort of, but at the same time, it's not like Knock is innocent. I mean, he did strangle that jailer guy, and he is a sort of wannabe vampire.
Yeah, he's got some issues he needs to work on.
But yeah, so there's that. There's also, I think, in this movie an undercurrent of anxiety about what's natural and what's not. So the vampire is like a supernatural being, it seems. But one of the more interesting sequences to me in the film is the sort of interlude where we're waiting for the ship carrying Orlok to come to Visborg, and we start watching Professor Bulwer explaining to his students the weirdness of nature. So he shows them a Venus flytrap, and then he shows them a carnivorous polyp. And then we're cutting to, as we talked about before, what's his name? Knock in the lunatic asylum, where we get the insert shot of the fly being eaten by the spider. So there's all these images of nature being cruel and parasitic and ghostly in the case of the polyp, which Bulwer says is just like a phantom because it's translucent. Kind of seems like a stretch to me.
What is a polyp?
It looked in the movie, in the insert shot, it almost looks like a single-celled organism. It looks like something you'd see under a microscope.
Right. So...
But it's just this like tiny little thing. I guess the connection to the Venus flytrap is just that it's another thing that it doesn't look like it would eat other things because it's such a simple little organism, but it does. And we see it eating another little doodad.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, the connection between Orlok and these different quote unquote monsters in the natural world that the scientist is explaining to us is a little disturbing because it suggests that maybe Orlok isn't supernatural after all. Maybe the natural world is just kind of amoral and it's full of creatures that parasitize each other and prey on each other. It's nature red in tooth and claw, as Tennyson said. The world of survival of the fittest that Darwin had sort of brought people's attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe the vampire sort of represents that, the idea that, are we really any different from the rest of the natural world? Are we any better? Maybe human beings are also infected by this sort of ultimate amorality of nature, and we also prey upon each other and parasitize each other.
Deep.
I don't know. That's another thing that I was thinking as we were watching the film this time. Do we have any other ideas about the ending of the film? It's a big change to have the Mina character have to sacrifice herself. We have like a virgin sacrifice kind of at the end of the movie to appease the monster. And that's not something that later versions of the story really picked up. They picked up the idea that you can kill the vampire with sunlight, but I can't think of another version of the Dracula story where a virgin has to sacrifice herself to kill him in the end. So why do you think that didn't really take off?
I don't love it, so maybe other people also didn't love it.
For what reason?
I just think that that's a silly thing to do. You know? Like, I know, I'll just sacrifice myself for all these people. I understand that that's like a trope, like, oh, sacrifice yourself to save other people, like the good of the many outweigh the good of the few, or what?
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the
few. Look, I learned that from Sailor Moon, okay? Like, I don't know what you want. Anyway, I hate that. I hate it. I hate that trope. It's boring. I think on like a larger scale maybe, but like you want to save your town. No one's gonna remember you in 5 years. Like, get over yourself. She was just, I don't know. I wasn't overly attached to her.
Yeah, I know you didn't like her hair, and that's pretty important.
Yeah, that's why she needed to die. Like, I don't know.
I thought her hair was nice. She had these little ringlets.
You don't know
kind of hanging off the side of her head.
What you're talking about.
It's kind of like something Princess Leia would wear.
No!
Maybe.
What's wrong with you? I don't know. I think if she was trying to save the world, I'd be like, okay, I guess. But it was just such a dramatic thing to do. You know?
Yeah.
Like, couldn't you guys just, like, left town? Like, just leave.
Right. Yeah.
Take your husband and just go. Like.
So you felt like it was insufficiently motivated.
Sure.
Yeah, that's become like a running theme in the podcast.
For me?
Yeah, like you tend to balk at things the characters do where you don't feel like there was enough motivation behind it.
Interesting. Is this therapy?
Okay, so that's it for this week. Join us next time. Why did I say week? This isn't a weekly program. That's it for this podcast.
Forever.
Well, we'll see. If we come back, it'll be to talk about what I can't stop talking about. The 1931 Dracula starring Bela Lugosi. So join us for that. See you around.